Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Talk NFT, where we talk all things Web3. Today we have Adrian Bashik with us, who is the founding partner of Ethernity Chain, leading NFT platform for licensed NFT assets. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you for joining us all the way from Miami. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you had a long string of experience in producing and maybe even in the news aspect of the world. Tell us how you got into Web3 and your Web3 inspirations.
Yeah, I always like to say that if Bitcoin disrupted money and Ethereum and the blockchain are disrupting software, NFTs were here to disrupt content overall. So it started with art and 2D images and JPEGs on the blockchain, and it's ballooning to encompass so many different areas. Obviously, moved into 3D arts and collectibles, which is where we're at now, but coming soon, in-game assets and more. So with that in mind, I was always in the content field and industry. I started in news. I was a war correspondent actually for a long time. Wow. I was covering war zones and disaster areas. So I was based in Jerusalem, Beijing, then Nairobi, covering every conflict and disaster for a decade throughout the regions. And then I started seeing Bitcoin and actually the rise of M-Pesa and digital payments when I lived in Africa. And that's what got me hooked on the Bitcoin bug. And from there, started working full-time in the industry, started the CNBC International Crypto Trader Show with Rand Neuner, and we went around the world covering the industry everywhere, from Singapore to Silicon Valley, Hong Kong, Berlin, Miami, Malta, you name it, seeing the development of the industry around the globe. And then 2020 hit and the pandemic. Nick Rose, our CEO, was starting Ethernity and asked me to kind of join, and knowing that content space and dealing with studios and rights deals and licensing and more, it was the perfect fit and perfect niche, and able to go on this side of building full time.
Wow. So you have quite literally seen it, but also documented it all since the beginning. So your mind must be spinning.
Yeah. I mean, we were super fortunate to have the access and, talk to all the relevant big players in the game on a one-on-one basis, being in the room with minds like Vitalik and CZ, Joe Lubin, Arthur Hayes, you name it, from developers to founders to VCs as well, and seeing the evolution really from 2017 to where we are today. We just wrapped up the Bitcoin conference here in Miami 2 weeks ago. It was literally across the street from where I lived, and still there, being in the room with top names and seeing what everyone's building. We were with Udi Wertheimer, talking about Bitcoin ordinals and where that's at in the Bitcoin world, not just ERC and Ethereum based NFTs.
Yes, I mean, there's so many advancements since you started coming onto the space, and it seems like Ethernity is trying to encompass a lot of those aspects of those changes. It must be hard to keep up because there's new iterations probably by the day with everything that's happening. And so tell us a little bit about Ethernity Chain. I know that you guys are working on a ton of stuff over there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of this industry is an ever moving target. Every quarter, there's a new iteration of what people are building on, with, and for. But really, at the end of the day, we're focused on the consumer and our community, and really fostering a sense of, yes, community, but also inclusiveness with the people, brands, rights, licenses, and IPs that we partner with. So, we never aim to be like a Target, Amazon, or Walmart of the Web3 space. So we're not like an OpenSea or a LooksRare where it's just a big marketplace, but rather we're a highly curated, licensed, and authenticated platform where we partner with specific rights, licenses, IPs, and roll out collections with them that our community and users are going to gravitate towards. And yeah, we started with big name figures like Lionel Messi, Shaq, Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys with the NFL, motor companies like DeLorean, toy companies like Toys R Us, historical figures like Muhammad Ali and Marilyn Monroe, Authentic Brands Group, and more. And now where we see the industry shifting, from there we saw the rise of 10K avatar PFP projects. We partner with a ton of high-end, highly visible NFT artists like Boss Logic when we first rolled out, Victor Mascaro, the latest NFT with Messi for the World Cup, for example. Guys like Fuckrender and Thank UX we've talked to and had a lot of sessions with, even panel sessions, for example. And now we see a very exciting time where NFTs are going to be really used as, let's say, in-game assets. So we have an entire vertical under Ethernal Labs that's building out a game. We've announced our Exorians universe, which is going to be highlighted by the release of a comic series that we're launching at Comic-Con in San Diego next month.
Nice.
Huge news. That comic will then be released as a monthly NFT series, a digital asset, a Web3 good, which then evolves into the storyline powering the game. So we've long been at work for the last year on our Exorians universe game. That will, again, entail a ton of NFTs as in-game assets, and that rolls out in the next year and a half or so.
Wow. Yeah, definitely gaming has been the forefront of 2023, at least what I've seen on the news. There's been just never-ending funding, it seems, pouring into that space. And seeing, Ethernity starting out as NFT marketplace, bespoke marketplace for the IPs that you mentioned, and then now going into gaming, it seems like that is the place to be right now. And I was just at VCon, and a lot of people are talking about how AI would help with that in coordination with platforms like Unreal Engine, and it just blew my mind, the applications of it. And there's so many disruptive technologies now that, as a consumer, what type of consumers are you focused on, I would say, because it seems to be either you started as a for collectors, and it seems like it's moved into gaming and even maybe into comics.
Yeah, comics right now is a key focus. Why? Because it blends the old and the new, right? So much of what the inspiration and the creative direction of a lot of NFT artists, started at just as recently as 2020, 2021, were comic based. So you have this legendary sort of crew of artists and innovators, writers, and collectors that are needing a revamp and wanting to sort of figure out their niche and their role in the Web3 space. And we're going to be a key facilitator to that. So again, we're rolling out our own IP and comic collection, but with legendary figures from the comics world, like Scott Snyder, Frank Thierry, Ryan Smallman. They're powering our first number of issues. And again, we're going to be releasing the Ashcan versions, the handwritten and the hand-signed versions at Comic-Con in San Diego. And then that'll lead into monthly releases, and then that will power the characters and the storylines of the game. What does that do? That honors the past, but it brings us into the future, and it collaborates with longtime, highly acclaimed artists, but then transfer them over into the digital realm, and creates a high value and a high claim of collectability and visibility for us all.
Wow, bringing those two, the past and together into the future, definitely makes sense to help onboard, just both sides of the story here. And you having a lot more experience than an average person, being a marketplace for a long time and having a DeFi mechanism as well. This is kind of a loaded question, but what's some of the biggest learning lessons that you've taken from those projects, those launches, and could apply it over here to what you guys are doing? In terms of IPs or in terms of even collectors, getting their feedback. That's why I say it's a loaded question, because I asked everyone this. They must have learned so much in these last few years.
Sure. We talk a lot about product market fit. And so we saw where the market was early on in 2020. We were one of the first big platforms to launch. We launched with a token as well, and fully Web3 native, have DeFi implementation. So it's not just a marketplace, and it's not just these NFTs that we're spinning up out of thin air, but there's real utility, and our users can, for example, farm both their tokens and their NFTs on our platform and get rewarded in stones. It's like an in-app on-platform currency, and then those can be traded for NFTs for physical goods and experiences. We've always paired our collections with physical goods and experiences from day one. Literally, we've done like custom bats with Fernando Tatis, a signed pair of gloves with Ali. With Pacquiao, we did, ringside seats, an autograph session and a photo session with him, and then the robe that he wore out to the fight. With Messi, we've done, signed jerseys and balls and you name it. So we're actually launching our farmers market and stone store on our site next week, actually, where that'll be 24/7, and then users can trade those tokens that they've gained from the DeFi implementation and more for constant rewards and experiences, you name it. So we're trying to really blend both the Web 2 and the Web 3 world and the physical goods and experiences. We're going to be releasing statues and some interesting poster series as well. We really aim to be that sort of long concurrent thread between Web 2 and Web 3 and not just capitalize on like that gold rush mentality that happened in 2021, but we're here building throughout. Like we're not stopping and we'll be here for a long time to come.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of people just come in to just capture the hype, let's say, right? And what's kind of the sentiment now of those brands? Are they ready for round two? We know that currently that every company has to have an AI division. Before that, it was every company had to have an NFT and Web3 division. And how's that how do you seeing that unfold for 2023 and 2024 onwards?
I think we're hearing from a lot of both co-founders, portfolio companies, and funds that have invested in us and otherwise that AI is really going to need cryptography in Web3 to be salient, relevant, and authenticated, right? That's the power of the blockchain, that you get to authenticate your account, not your keys, not your wallet. And there's going to be a layer of either blockchain authentication or cryptographic elements to AI to really authenticate your work, your identity, and your assets. And we're pretty bullish on how the two are going to intersect. Right now, it's a morass of everyone figuring out where the hype lies and where the dust settles. And we think there's going to be a super interesting intersection between the two.
Yeah, that's a question that I've been asking everyone coming onto the show, just how is it going to intersect? And to your point, definitely it needs authentication because AI is interesting. Is training a data set that is we don't know if the data is true or not, and we can definitely see blockchain solving that problem. Talking about hype, you mentioned it briefly earlier. Bitcoin NFTs, everyone thought it wouldn't last past March, and since past 10 million inscriptions. Are you guys going to implement that into your marketplace, and how do you see that playing out?
We don't have plans as of yet, but I can tell you from things I'm hearing and things both I heard at the Bitcoin conference here in Miami, as well as some very interesting players, both operating in the marketplace and getting into it. We've seen the last couple of days with SEC crackdowns on both Binance and Coinbase, a very bullish case for all things Bitcoin, because that's the king, right? And so there is going to be some upward momentum and even a shift over from some ERC20 development to BRC20 development. There's going to be some interesting movements happening in the rare sats community of finding those rare sats and inscripting. It's totally different because you've got to take a sat through Taproot and inscribe a single sat, and that has to be the single node of sort of authentication between an NFT and the Bitcoin blockchain. It's not for everyone as of yet, but there's some incredibly smart developers and builders that are literally building the interface and the software layers right now to be able to connect the masses to inscriptions on sats known as either rare sats or NFTs on Bitcoin. It's happening in real time, I can tell you that.
Yeah, there is I see a lot of development, and me myself being in NFT space, I have not even bought my first Bitcoin NFT yet because they're still being rolled out. But just hearing a lot of the development that was over on Ethereum and then potentially coming on Bitcoin, it sounds like it is coming over Bitcoin. It's something truly that I should be on top of, and everyone should be on top of. It's crazy the disruption that we're having on a daily basis here, even amongst the more current market conditions. And talk about current market conditions. How's Ethernity adapting? We know that the masses, the lay person might not be as enthused as NFTs as before. Is it just the same mission and model here, just to keep it going, or are we looking to onboard some new users? Is that to the core mission, or is it something completely different?
Big time. Again, we're looking to bring this to the masses. And so in really exciting news, we are releasing our app this fall.
Okay, nice.
It's been a long development road for us. And so the app is in beta, and we've got it fully improved in the App Store and Google Play. We've delayed for a few reasons, both technical, but also, at the App Store, even just as recently as a couple weeks ago, they're announcing, gameplay is going to be able to have, NFTs as in-game assets. So we see a very bullish case for the entire industry leading up to the halving, post-halving. The real players will be around in this time of a builder's market, which was what we like to say we're in, and rolling out products once that cycle then kind of reinvigorates with a narrative of the halving, which historically brings in more and more users. But you had to have companies like ours that were well capitalized, able to withstand the headwinds of a bear market, aka builder's market, and then release those bigger new products in this next cycle that brings in many more users who've heard the hype waves, but now we have the rails to bring them in a super easy way with something like an app where you can have an in-app currency connected to your wallets, to your Apple Wallet or Google Pay, and make the experience seamless. Then we have like a technology that can then take you to a blockchain if and so you want to burn a digital collectible and have them as an NFT.
Mm. Yeah, definitely early times here. NBA Top Shot, which kind of led the way, also had like a $7 billion valuation. They just released their app in 2023, funny enough, and they were kind of leading the way in 2021 and even 2020. So definitely everyone is, or it takes time to build something of value, and definitely looks like you guys are headed the right way. I'm not saying every company needs to have an app, but definitely that is where you're going to get a lot of people's attention.
No, and look, a lot of companies didn't have the runway and the foresight to be able to build products like this. It takes a lot of capitalization, a lot of teamwork. We have a full-time team of over 30 that are working day in and day out to deliver a long-term vision, not just release an NFT collection and cash grab it and keep it moving on to the next. No, but it's a long-term build, and we're proud to be here and will be here for a long time to come.
That's awesome. One thing I appreciate about Ethernity is just having the community aspect of inclusion. Not many marketplaces have that. You guys definitely do have that. And having experience, having ran a DAO for a while now, how has that been? What's been the biggest feedback from your community? Their comments and suggestions? Is it vastly different than your original vision of when you first started a DAO? And I ask this to all the founders because everyone starts a DAO with a vision in mind. But as the community members participate, it changes the narrative a little bit.
Yeah, our DAO, we released it last quarter, and this year for 2023. And our DAO's vision is simple: it's community involvement and having the community at the table with a seat at the table to make decisions on product rollout and where things in the community happen. So they voted, for example, to have a 24/7 farmers market, aka stone store, to have a marketplace for their stones to be able to redeem cool NFTs, physical goods, and experiences. And that was direct from the community. We responded. Our devs have built it out, and we're about to release it. To have a community with those votes and that input, I think, is super key and keeps us decentralized for a long time to come. And those decisions will only get amplified with the greater steps that we take after these kind of key roadmap pillars that we hit on the big product rollouts.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting aspect. Something that I've never been a part of prior to Web3 is just having some sort of, I wouldn't say controlling interest, but some interest in projects deeper than just a collector's point of view, where I'm actually voting for, mechanisms or activations to happen, with the project itself. And sometimes I see this in a bad way. I've seen projects where I'm involved where they use all the funding, like absolutely everything was voted yes. I couldn't imagine it. But it's just very interesting time where we live in now to have, a kind of community voice, and also, they can have a vote actually.
100%. And again, it'll grow incrementally as more proposals and things get brought to the table. But I urge anyone listening, check out our community. You can go to Ethernity.io, create an account, super easy. All our socials and all our community boards and members are listed there, from our Twitter to our Instagram to our LinkedIn. I mean, not a LinkedIn, Discord. And you can join our community there, and it's super active. We have a lot of old school users, but we're adding 20 to 30 new members per week as we just keep growing it. And again, I think a lot of players sort of float out of the space, but we're one of the stalwarts that'll be here for a long time.
Yeah, I remember one of the first releases that attracted me to you guys was the Bruce Lee NFT. Yeah, that was super exciting. You guys, I think, were one of the first to launch one of his IPs onto the space. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we partnered with some incredible artists on that one. We gave a lot of kind of access behind the scenes to that creative process. And we're definitely excited to get to work on a new collection coming up soon, because it's coming up on his 50th anniversary this summer. So there are more things to come. Stay tuned on that collection.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one thing that drew me into NFT the most, is just having those experiences. So hearing that you guys will be at SDCC, which is a bummer. I just sold my SDCC tickets because my wife's pregnant. So, we're not walking around SDCC. But
more important.
Right. But just having those in-person experiences with brands that, you patronize is so exciting. I know Vivi was there last year at SDCC. So it's exciting to see you guys there and actually releasing IP. That's good. I look forward to seeing that as your brand, as you guys unfold that story.
Yeah, at San Diego Comic-Con, we'll have a whole booth, a whole activation, and we've got our comic artists there live in person, signing the ashcan versions of the comics, and we'll be doing giveaways. We'll be doing some earned token giveaways, some raffles, very fun stuff. So I urge anyone who's attending, definitely stop on by. Look for the big Ethernity presence at Comic-Con for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, we'll wrap things up with this. What's next for you guys? What question maybe I should have asked that didn't? I see Mr. Beast down there in your logo. Is he launching NFT? I'm sure everyone asked you this question. So what's next for you guys?
Next are our big product rollouts of A, our Exorians comic universe, B, our app, C, our huge game that will kind of intertwine all these things together. And then our ongoing partnerships and drops on our site on Ethernity.io. So definitely check out Ethernity.io, become a member, create an account, be active in the community. We do a ton of giveaways. Again, you can farm stones and you can earn both NFTs, physical goods, and experiences. We give away tickets to games, concerts, things worldwide, literally. Our community is super global. It's not centralized in any way, shape, or form. We have things happening and catering to a global audience.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I will put all the links for everything that we just talked about down below on this podcast link. And I just can't wait to have you guys come back in the future. You guys launching so much, the comic, AAA game, the app. There's a lot to talk about when those things do launch. So I would love to have you back. I mean, I would like to say a year, but a year in Web3 and AI world, it's like probably like 100 years. So maybe like a few months down the road to come talk about all things Ethernity.
We're here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Adrian.